our philosophy of the industry is to eventually achieve absolute zero emissions. We know this is possible. We know that the technology exists, but it will be a long time before, well, I don't want to say a long time, but it will be some time before we can have all of these technologies at scale in a way that we can transition the entire industry. And we believe that over the next 5 years, we need to be making incremental steps forward. So moving forward with getting these technologies on larger vessels to reduce emissions on the larger vessels. So this is wind propulsion technology, using hydrogen fuel cells as APUs, and improvements in energy storage systems. So increasing the amount of batteries on board and transitioning to electric propulsion where possible, which brings the fleet to be future ready, brings all of the fleet to be future ready. So new builds moving to electric propulsion. But in terms of smaller vessels, in terms of short sea shipping and return to base vessels, we can actually move into absolute zero emissions at this point in time. But I think for the next 5 years, the focus really needs to be on improving efficiencies. And so adding technologies that improve efficiencies, focusing on operational profiles, focusing on using wind and current routing, so a comprehensive weather routing system. The list goes on and on of the different types of efficiency measures that can be used to achieve that first stage of goals laid out by the IMO revised greenhouse gas strategy. So I think in 2030, what's going to stay the same is, I know a lot of people will be shocked to hear me say this, but what's going to stay the same for the most part is the fuels that we're using. I don't think we're going to see a big change between now and 2030 in the fuel types. But what we will see is, as I said earlier, we'll see a big shift in a big uptake in efficiency technologies, and we will see electric propulsion taking the forefront, because an electric vessel is for the most part, a vessel that's done with electric propulsion can be a multi-fuel vessel or can make that fuel choice later on. And I think what we're doing to stay to the forefront of that is, as I said before, we're working in short sea shipping to begin transitioning the smaller vessels. 15% of international shipping's greenhouse gas emissions is coming from vessels below 5,000 GT. So, and this is really the sweet spot for us in terms of that technology. So we'll be focusing on this sector in terms of total transition of vessels. So improving the scalability, or rather scaling up the technologies, improving those technologies, as well as building in the fuel infrastructure that will then come online after 2030, when we've got a clear regulatory framework around the fuels and those guidelines and regulations are in place. My wish list on this is, number one is transparency. We need transparency and a high level of communication on data. This is something that's really missing at the moment in the industry. Is one, the data collection, the right data collection. We need to know exactly how much each vessel is emitting. Not only that, but we need to know. We need a very, very clear picture of energy supply chains, and I use the term energy because we're talking renewable energy, we're talking nuclear energy, we're talking wind propulsion as a form of energy, we're talking using ocean currents as energy, and we need to be able to use this information. One, we need to be able to calculate energy, as in quantities of energy, where we can get this energy from and how we can use this energy. But we also need a very transparent view on the energy supply chain. So where are these fuels coming from? How do we know that that's where it comes from? So a real traceability in this. And one of the things that our big wish for the industry is the creation of a blockchain type system where all of this information is locked into place, and then in a way that doesn't disclose anybody's private business information, is that the necessary information is then disclosed to other parties. So this is something that we'll be working on as an association, is a distributed ledger-based system that can evaluate the supply chain and emissions throughout the supply chain, where different fuels are coming from in that supply chain. But also this will then be able to be used by the end user to be able to calculate what the actual emission footprint of their transportation is. So in a word, be able to be used for their Scope 2 and Scope 3 emissions calculations. Very good question. So I think that at this point in time, to be quite clear, we, humanity, are in front of an existential crisis. We're in an emergency situation. So if you were on a vessel and you were in an emergency situation, it would be all hands on deck. And I think that we need to approach it in this regard. One, it's all hands on deck, and two is that we're all in this together. And so for me, the most important aspect is clear communication. And again, that's back to the data. But we need clear communication amongst all stakeholders. And we need to be looking at this in a holistic way. Up until now, shipping has been very siloed. And even I'm having conversations here where people are talking about, oh, well, there's this and then there's that. And they don't see how the two are intrinsically connected. And I think that we all, as an industry, I mean, this is a hugely wide industry that touches absolutely everything. There is no other industry that has so much impact on all aspects of life. And we need to take a step back and see how complex our industry is, but then how connected it is as well. And begin to take a holistic, in all of our actions, see how our actions are going to impact the rest of the industry. Almost like a web. If you picture a web, a spider web, if you touch it, it reflects everywhere in that web. And it's the same in shipping. What each one of us do impacts all of the others, and not only impacts others in shipping, but impacts the rest of humanity, and indeed our environment, nature. And so that is my wish is a holistic view and deep communication between stakeholders.